So you dabble in tech and you do a fair amount of it as a high schooler. Fast forward
Yes.
to your 20s. What are you doing in your 20s?
Rocking it. What was I doing in my 20s? When I graduated college a semester early, so I got out at 21 and I got a job at a theater in Baltimore, Baltimore Center Stage, down in downtown Baltimore. And so I worked there for 2 or 3 years as the assistant technical director, assistant production manager. And when I got from there, I went actually to my first teaching gig. So then I moved over and I was technical director at Baltimore School for the Arts, which is a high school, inner city Baltimore high school, for the arts. It's very interesting. If you've ever seen the, God, what are those dance movies with Channing Tatum in them?
Center stage?
No,
Center,
Magic Mike.
center stage?
Is
No.
it? Nope. Center Stage is a different one because this theater was called Center Stage. No, it's Step Up.
Yes.
The Step Up movies
Yes.
take place at MSA, Maryland School for the Arts, but it's
Oh.
actually BSA, Baltimore School for the Arts. Like they even shoot some of the scenes there. So,
Really?
Yep. That's where I used to work. So it's not exactly like in the movie, to be clear. But that was like my first sort of teaching gig, which started. It started like a lifelong, honestly, career of teaching in such a wide variety
Yeah.
of ranges that it was like 10 years before I really realized that I was effectively a lifelong teacher of just many disciplines.
And so, were you naturally drawn to teaching, or was it like, they just need someone to fill the spot, and I guess I'll do it? Tell me about that, like, first time you started teaching.
The first time I started teaching formally, which would have been at Baltimore School for the Arts, it was to a degree a job that I wanted, I was interested in, I needed it. That was a very steep learning curve, I gotta say, because we were actually discussing this before we started, but I look young for my age now. So imagine me at 23.
You would look like a child.
I looked like a child to the point where, as I was teaching there, I was at one point I was in the elevator, and another teacher was like, "What are you doing in the teacher elevator?" And I was like, "Going to the third floor," And she was like, "Are you supposed to be here?" And I was like, "Yes." And it didn't even occur to me like the problem. And then I think there was actually some sort of PSA that went about that they were like, "There's a really young teacher in the theater department," because then someone came in and went to my sophomore Lucy and said, "Are you the young teacher?" And she was like, "I'm a sophomore." Right out the door. But like, granted, standing next to each other, we both looked about 17, so it's cool.
I'm curious, when you were teaching, how do you think maybe your neurodivergence showed up looking back at that time?
Looking back at that time, and to be clear, like, I didn't realize I was neurodivergent until I heard the term, which
Sure.
was seriously in the last like 5 years tops, like
Okay.
3 to 5 years. So then it was like, aha, this all makes sense. I think that having this neurodivergence has actually made me a very effective teacher because I've had to learn to communicate. Like, it was to learn to communicate effectively with a variety of people and just constantly changing and being able to change my communication style until it works. And so I think that made me a very effective teacher. I don't know if it makes me empathetic or if I was sort of naturally empathetic, which either way, thank you, world. But it certainly helped me with that. The kids actually really related to me. I remember one of them one time, they were talking about another teacher, and they're like, "Yeah, Miss So-and-so definitely stepped outside her teacher box on that one." And then they looked at me and they're like, "You never had a teacher box." And I was like, cool. But it made me very approachable at the very least. Those kids would come to me for advice on tattoos, on all kinds of stuff, which my main advice for young kids is wait till you have money. So otherwise you're going to end up with a cover up or removing it at some point. Wait till you have enough money to get a good tattoo. And like random life advice, they emailed me for tons of time afterwards. I was a bridesmaid at one of their weddings. Like, it really like a sort of lack of awareness of certain things in my life, mostly social sort of like parameters, not inappropriate, but like, you know, just sort of like this, you know, barrier. I don't know. Maybe we should just edit that out. That sounds, yeah. But I think that having sort of that just very open, like that kind of like attitude that I've always had, made me approachable, made the kids kind of relate to me a little bit more, at least some of them, if that helps.